Throughout human history, there have been times when things have been so bad that we can scarcely believe they actually happened. Sometimes it seems as if humanity is capable of anything, even in our modern age. Some events that occurred in the past seem so horrible that we may be tempted to think that they could never happen again. But it's worth remembering that these dark moments were once thought by their victims to be unimaginable, too. Welcome to my channel. And today, let's find out some disturbing facts in history you won't learn anywhere else. Unit 731, Japan's Human. Experimentation during World War II. Most people are aware of the atrocities committed by the Nazis during World War II, including countless experiments performed on live human beings. What many people do and know is that similar horrors took place across the Pacific Ocean at the hands of Imperial Japan. Between 1932 and 1945, Japanese scientists ran a series of horrific tests on prisoners in Unit 731. Prisoners were infected with syphilis and other diseases, had their limbs amputated without anesthesia, and were even sewn up in airtight metal boxes for as long as 2 months at a time. After the war, many of the surviving scientists claimed that all of their research had been done on animals and that no humans were ever harmed. However, documents discovered in the aftermath revealed the truth. Around 3,500 people were killed or died from neglect in Unit 731, the Holodomor, man-made famine in Ukraine during the early Soviet era. In the years after the Russian Revolution of 1917, the newly formed Soviet Union experienced significant upheaval and change. One of the most disastrous events was the Holodomor, which translates as to kill by hunger. Between 1932 and 1933, millions of Ukrainians starved to death when the Soviet government confiscated their grain, which resulted in a man-made famine. Joseph Stalin wanted to punish the Ukrainians for their perceived opposition to his policies and collectivization of agriculture. At the time, Ukraine was one of the most fertile regions in the world, and its food surplus was shipped out to feed industrial workers in urban centers. Stalin's policies essentially created an artificial famine and led to an estimated 3.9 million deaths. The burning of witches across Europe during the early modern period. For several centuries in Europe, there was a mass hysteria known as the burning of witches, which resulted in the persecution and execution of thousands of people accused of witchcraft. The exact period of the witch hunt is debated among historians, but it took place mainly between the 15th and 18th centuries. In the early modern period, Europe was a hotbed of religious zeal and superstition and fear of the devil. Women who did not conform to societal norms or who possessed knowledge of healing and herbalism were often targeted as witches. They were typically charged with consorting with the devil, casting spells, causing disease and death, and engaging in other nefarious activities. The alleged witches were subjected to intense interrogations, torture, and trials. If found guilty, they faced severe punishments, including imprisonment, banishment, and ultimately execution by burning at the stake. It is estimated that over 60,000 people, mostly women, were killed during the European witch craze, the transatlantic slave trade. When most people learn about slavery, they are taught that Africans were captured and sold to labor on plantations in the Americas. Many don't realize just how big of a business slavery was. From the 16th to 19th centuries, more than 12 million men, women and children were transported across the Atlantic Ocean under the most inhumane conditions imaginable. Those involved in the slave trade saw Africans as nothing more than property, and they were bought and sold like cattle. Men, women, and children were crammed together on ships for weeks at a time, suffering from starvation, dehydration, and disease. It's estimated that around 2 million people lost their lives during the slave trade due to harsh treatment on plantations and during transportation. The last African to be imported into the United States as a slave was in 1860, and the transatlantic slave trade officially ended in 1888, when Brazil abolished slavery. Nazi human experiments during World War II. While Unit 731 may have been conducting cruel experiments on humans in relative secrecy, similar horrors were taking place in Germany itself. Nazi doctors were performing all kinds of experiments on people, such as testing the effects of freezing temperatures on the human body by throwing people into snow and leaving them to die. Other experiments involved injecting people with various diseases and then recording their symptoms. Perhaps the most famous Nazi doctor was Dr. Joseph Mengele, who oversaw the selection process at Auschwitz. He was known as the Angel of Death, and he oversaw the killings of more than 3 million people. Chernobyl liquidators. After the Chernobyl nuclear disaster in 1986, the Soviet government needed to clean up the mess. They turned to liquidators, which was the name given to the thousands of people who were sent into the exclusion zone to clean up the radioactive material. Many of the liquidators were firefighters and army personnel who were not given adequate training or protective gear. They worked around the clock to contain the damage and spent little time thinking about the consequences. Their actions saved many lives and prevented an even greater disaster. But as a result, thousands of liquidators have suffered from cancer and other health issues. The Roman Colosseum. During the Roman Empire, the Colosseum was the center of entertainment. This massive amphitheater hosted all kinds of events, including mock battles, animal hunts, and executions. The Romans loved watching people fight to the death, and hundreds of thousands of spectators would pack into the stands to cheer on their favorite gladiators. Many of the fights were brutal and graphic, and the crowds would often erupt into violence. Today, the Colosseum is a ruin, and visitors can explore the ancient structure for themselves. But it's hard to imagine the blood and guts that once filled the arena. Hiroshima and Nagasaki. On August 6, 1945, the United States dropped an atomic bomb on the city of Hiroshima. 3 days later, another bomb was dropped on Nagasaki. These were the first and only uses of nuclear weapons in warfare, and they resulted in the immediate deaths of around 200,000 people. The bombs also caused long-term health problems for many survivors. The bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki are considered to be one of the most significant events of the 20th century. They marked the beginning of the nuclear age and raised awareness of the destructive power of nuclear weapons. The Congo Free State. In the late 19th century, King Leopold II of Belgium established the Congo Free State, a personal colony in Central Africa. The king ruled over the Congo with an iron fist, and his agents committed countless atrocities against the native population. They were forced to work in rubber plantations, and if they did not meet their quotas, they were severely punished. Men, women, and children were beaten, mutilated, and even killed. The Congo Free State was finally abolished in 1908. But the legacy of King Leopold's atrocities continues to haunt the region. The Armenian genocide. Between 1915 and 1923, the Ottoman government systematically killed an estimated 1.5 million Armenians within their borders. The genocide was the first of its kind in the 20th century, and it was carried out by the Ottoman military and civilian authorities. The Armenians were accused of collaborating with the Russians during World War I, and this led to their persecution. Men were forcibly conscripted into the Ottoman army, women were raped, and entire villages were massacred. The Armenian genocide is considered to be one of the worst atrocities of the 20th century, and yet it is still not widely recognized. Which facts surprised you the most? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. Get to subscribe for more videos like this, and check out my other videos. See you next time.